This entry had master animators being told to purposely draw badly, and the result is one of the strangest, most perfectly timed sequences Tex Avery ever put to film. So this is a review for Porky's Preview, released in 1941. It's the 323rd in the series, and it's directed by Tex Avery. You can find this on the Looney Tunes Golden Collection Volume 5 DVD set, and on the Porky Pig 101 DVD set. Hopefully it'll make its way to a Collector's Vault Blu-ray volume in the coming years, because it was already restored in HD at the time. I'm aware it was an extra on one of the Warner Archive Blu-rays, but it'd be nice to have it on one of the actual proper dedicated Looney Tunes sets. This one is actually in the public domain though, so at the end of the review, I'll have the cartoon playing for you anyway. But in case you haven't seen this one, it's pretty straightforward. Porky has made himself a cartoon, and he's inviting all of his, I'm assuming, friends to show up. And the whole beginning is like a parody of the theatre scene at the time, where people would pay their entry fee, but they would see newsreels, short subjects, and one or two movies. But this one is definitely a unique entry in the Looney Tunes series, and we'll certainly go through that. In terms of trivia, I'm going to go through a lot of that as we go along the cartoon, but the one important thing I want to mention first is that this is Tex Avery's final Porky Pig short. In case you've forgotten, his very first short for Leon Schlesinger, who outsourced shorts to Warner Brothers, was Gold Diggers 49, and he had Porky Pig there. Although Porky Pig there was like a grown man yelling out whoopee when he got his sandwich and all that, and there was never really any consistency with Porky Pig, and this one, he's like a child again. So I guess I gotta put in a Simpsons reference here. I hope somebody got fired for that blunder. No, they weren't even thinking about continuity, they were just deciding, you know what, what's funny for this short? Oh, we're going to make Porky a child. That suits the story. Yeah, let's go with it. Sure, why not? But not only that, it's also his final black and white Looney Tunes entry. So much like, again, Gold Diggers of 49, it's another black and white entry, because around this time, the different units were then made to do a few black and white shorts and made to do some color shorts. But not long after this, Tex Avery would get fired and make his way over to MGM. But what we're going to do is go through the short from start to finish, and I'm going to point out all the references. I know some of the animators here, by the way, and this information comes from an audio commentary I did with my good friend Austin Kelly. So I'll be mentioning some of the things he said at the time, and also historian Greg Ford, he actually provided an audio commentary that's on that Golden Collection Volume 5 set, and he gives some very interesting insights. So in the title cards, we have one sole animator credited, which is Virgil Ross. Now, he certainly did not animate the whole thing himself. Around this time, the title cards just had one credited animator, and they would rotate that around. There were certainly other animators, and I'll mention them as we go along. But of course, we hear You Ought to Be in Pictures. I mean, what else are we going to hear in this particular short? I mean, we're going to a picture show, aren't we? But as we open up, we see the theatre exterior and all the crowds. A lot of this early stuff is done by Bob McKimson, and Bob McKimson's drawings were very solid, and once you know what you're looking for, it is easier to see. I'm not going to pretend that I'm perfect at identifying him, but you can sort of tell over time that, yes, his work is a lot more well-rounded. So the cue here in the beginning is Playmates by Charles L. Jolson and Saxy Dell. But I love the backgrounds here, and it's interesting seeing the contrast between the backgrounds here, and then once you see the backgrounds later on, once we start seeing Porky's picture show. But it's not a Tex Avery short without a bit of absurdity in it, right? So as we see the hen approaching the ticket booth, of course, she's got to have a nest held to her rear end, because why not? I mean, hey, it adds a bit of extra character here. Why not? And I like the fact that this is animated by Bob McKimson, and it's in a rural setting, and that's something that McKimson himself would be known for when directing his own shorts, particularly the Foghorn Leghorn series. Then we see a kangaroo ticket taker. I mean, gotta love my kangaroos, right? Because that's all we use here in Australia to get to where we need to go. We just hop in the pouches and go, right? But again, nice little character. It's just a brief side character, and yet Avery is able to make this character somewhat memorable just from its own expressions and just the fact that it often see old-looking kangaroos, do you? Then we see a Firefly usher, and again, you know, it's the whole thing where it's all about the theatre scene at the time. You know, you had your ushers, because kids, back then, theatres were a properly run organisation, unlike today, where it's like, order tickets yourself, find your seat yourself, and just leave us alone. That's what seems to be, and that's why I don't tend to go there anymore. But anyway, that's another topic entirely. But of course, we get a beautiful dad joke involving a skunk, and of course we hear Teddy Bear's Picnic, so Carl Starling loves to do his musical puns. The skunk tries to buy a ticket, and he doesn't have enough change to buy a ticket, and he's only got 1 cent. Get it?
The charge is 5 cents, please.
Gee, that's tough.
All I got is 1 cent. Get it?
Because around this time, yes, Bugs Bunny had premiered in Wild Hair, but Mel Blanc was still working on the accent. It was a gradual evolution, but the voice used here is clearly something that he would end up putting towards the future Bugs Bunny accent once everything more or less solidifies. And if you watch a lot of the Tex Avery shorts around this time, there's quite a few characters that sound like the smart aleck Bugs Bunny character anyway. Nothing was done in a vacuum, everything just came from something else, so it just evolved from one short to another through the various different production units. But we get the setup for a gag we're going to see pay off later on. The skunk walks away, disappointed, and spots an exit door and just sneaks into the theatre, which I'm sure was a major problem for theatres around this time. But let's now get into the main part of this short and why people remember this one so much. We get the Porky stage intro. And I love the animation here, how he's just got that false modesty and saying, oh gosh, look at the picture I did. And to be fair, again, he's 7.5 here, even though he still looks like an adult. But anyway, we won't quite go there. Animating ain't exactly easy. And honestly, once you watch the rest of this, it's pretty impressive. I don't think many 7-year-olds could do something like this, but anyway. So these scenes here revolving Porky are done by Virgil Ross. So compare what you see with Porky here and the earlier scenes. And Greg Ford in his commentary mentions that it's sort of a parody of a Hollywood pitch meeting where, the director acts all bashful towards studio bosses, hey, can you look at my picture? I don't know if it was intended to do that, but still, it does come across like that. I can somewhat agree with Greg Ford's observations there. But on with the show. We're going to see Porky Pig's Funny Pictures, age 7, grade 2, and we even got the crude and yet cute caricatures. And it's not just of Porky there, but it's also for studio manager Harry Binder, and he was parodied a lot around this time. And I love the merry-go-round broke down theme here. It is your intentionally out of tune, skipped record version of the main theme. It's fantastic. It's like school group choirs, all of them having recorders trying to play, I don't know, Yankee Doodle or something, and it just sounds all awful and maybe a little bit charming, I don't know, but anyway. And we see draft number 6 and 7, 8, and that's an ongoing joke around a lot of the studios at the time. I don't know if it was picked up from the Three Stooges or not, because that was their union, local 6 and 7, 8s. So we just got different scenes here, and there's no real narrative element throughout all of them, and that's okay. Spot gag cartoons was naturally one of Avery's specialties. So we start off with the circus parade, and immediately we see these primitive stick figure parades featuring animals and a street sweeper, and I gotta say, it may be primitive, but it looks beautiful. It really does. And we of course hear the Parade of the Animals, because why wouldn't we? We gotta hear that. Now, it's my understanding that Rod Scribner and Virgil Ross had a hand in some of these scenes, but it is kind of hard to tell. It's one of those things you have to look at the frame-by-frame moments to see how certain animators time their drawings. So that part put a question mark. I'm happy to be corrected in the comments below. But it also kind of demonstrates the drawing badly paradox. So you had master animators, some of the best in the business at the time, particularly Bob McKimson. I mean, the guy was just a machine when it came to drawing. And yet, when these master animators had to purposely draw badly, yet the drawings still turn out to be quite amazing looking and perfectly timed. I mean, certainly a 7-year-old couldn't do it like this unless there was some kind of a major prodigy, but whatever. Oh, and if you listen very carefully, you're going to hear at the end of the musical cue, "You're a horse's ass." The Choo Choo Train cartoon. So we again see some wonderful, charming stick figure train just chugging along, multi-angle track, which makes no sense, but again, beautiful looking. And we hear California Here I Come, which is a common tune that Carl Stalling used when it came to trains. And it's played with kazoos and an off-key rhythm, because again, it's part of the charm, isn't it? Now we're on to the Soldiers Marching cartoon. So we see the stick figure troops marching along to Frat by John F. Barth. We certainly never heard of Frat before, have we? But at the end of the scene, we see those stick figure troops marching up vertically before crashing down, and that's a gag that's lifted from Tex Avery's own short, The Penguin Parade, where they do the exact same thing. We then cut to the horse race, which, of course, in brackets is Crosby's horse. We hear the old grey mare, he ain't what he used to be. You've heard that so many times in these. I personally came across it in the last episode of season 4 of The Simpsons, with the dancing old man once Krusty's at his low point. But yeah, it's your standard 40s studio joke where Bing Crosby, he had a lot of racehorses, but notoriously slow real-life racehorses at Santa Anita. So the dancers sequence is actually cut up into little different sequences. So the first one, we see the hula dancer. So we got some beautiful fluid hip movements here. This might even be Rod Scribner. We hear Aloha Oi because why not? Every time you see a hula hoop scene or reference or whatever, of course you're going to hear that. But here's something that was interesting because obviously full frontal nudity was a massive no-no for the Hays Code at the time, but here, you get your nudity, you just can't really see it, you know? So I wonder if that was just Avery's way of just seeing what he could get away with at the time. We then cut to the Mexican dancer. Gee, I wonder what song we're going to hear here. Could it be La Cucaracha? Nah, we never hear that for a Mexican theme, do we? But here we actually get the addition of Porky being frustrated and drawing scribbles over getting drawings wrong, which is kind of weird because he would have had to animate himself crossing his work out. So kind of weird, but still it's fun to look at. Greg Ford in his commentary mentions that when he showed this to folks in the Soviet Union, the Soviet animators highlighted that this scribble out represents off-screen personality animation, implying Porky squirming at his desk struggling with his paper. And yeah, I wholeheartedly agree, even though if you really think about it, it doesn't quite make a whole lot of sense, but whatever, it's fun. We go now to the chorus line, the girls' dancing line. So we got the beautiful timing of the chorus girls, and Tex Avery just has to include one small little girl in there as well, because he has to. The song you hear is Latin Quarter, again, no stranger to Looney Tunes, that's played quite a bit, but man, the timing of this is incredible. So it might be primitive, but it's timed so well. So the final part of the dancer sequence is a ballet dancer, and we got this beautiful stick figure ballerina dancing gracefully, again, beautifully timed. She loses balance, falls over, and has to pull up the tutu. There's no music cue here, it's your standard styling score, but I honestly don't know what sort of musical pun he could have done, even if he wanted to. But Greg Ford mentioned when he showed this to Eastern European audiences, they were laughing their heads off because classical ballet, if you're going to do a parody of that, because it was considered really high art, you couldn't actually do that in Soviet animation. It was strictly taboo. So it's quite fascinating seeing all of the censorship issues that they had behind the Iron Curtain at the time. The next bit you may not have seen because it would typically be cut off in television broadcasts because of its blackface caricature. But the whole deal here is that it's Al Jolson singing September in the Rain. September in the Rain has been featured in Looney Tunes quite a few times. There was even a Merry Melody short called September in the Rain, where you see an Al Jolson scene where he's actually singing it. So here, the vocalization is done by Cliff Nazaro, who was quite good at doing the Al Jolson impression. And naturally, the song is September in the Rain. I mean, what else is it going to be? But this appears to be also a direct satire of the Warner Brothers founding achievement, which was The Jazz Singer, released in 1927. Now, whether that was quite intentional or not, I don't know, but at the end of the day, it's nicely timed. I mean, it's a little unfortunate, but blackface routines were definitely common in the 20s, 30s, and even up until the 40s, where eventually they just stopped doing that. And the reason for that should be pretty obvious. And that's the end of Porky's show. So we see the curtains go down. Porky is saying, hey, how do you like my show? But we see a payoff to the Skunk setup, and sure enough, he's the only one that's in the audience because he's chased everyone away due to his 1 cent. Ha ha. And we end right there. It's the official end of Tex Avery's black and white career at Warner Brothers, and overall, well, not quite. He did do a few things at Paramount which were in black and white as well, but as far as your standard 6 to 8 minute animated shorts, this was the last one. But in terms of a rating, this one is definitely fascinating, and certainly not because of Porky. He's just used as a means to an end, and this is something that Tex Avery clearly just wanted to do for fun. I don't know if there was a budgetary thing, but keep in mind, despite the animation looking very simplistic, a lot of work still had to go in it. It still had to be properly timed. So I don't know if there was too much by way of time saving, maybe less cells having to be painted where they have to paint whole characters and here is just literal sticks. I don't know. So maybe some time was saved, but I don't think it was maybe too much. But definitely let me know in the comments what you think, whether this was a major time-saving thing or not. And I would argue this is one of Tex Avery's greatest shorts, and it's certainly one of his most artistic. So Avery was all about the gag. So it's interesting whenever he tries to do something artistic, but then he ends up pushing a lot of his gags into these things. So this one, look, it's one of my favorites. It's 9 out of 10 for me, but you be the judge. You can watch the short right now and let me know what you think. But that'll do it for this one. Thank you so much for watching, guys, and until next time, take care.
please. 1 adult and 3 children, please. Thank you. Come, children.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Watch your step, please. Hey, how much to go in?
The charge is 5 cents, please.
Gee, that's tough. All I got is 1 cent. Get it? Let's see. There ought to be some way of getting into this joint. Uh-oh. Hi, gang. And now if you'll all be quiet, we'll start the show. I drew this cartoon all by myself, but shucks, it wasn't hard because I'm an artist. I hope you like it. Yeah, thank you.
leaves, they're falling on me. That's what they're doing in a rain. And the sun went out just like a dying ember. That's what it was. It was in September. That's when it was, yes, in a rain. Oh, look at those little clouds up there in a hill. Oh, and the little raindrops. They're falling on me. That's what they're doing. And Mammy, oh, look up there at the sun. It's shining on your little sunny boy. Come on, play it for me. Spring is here, and it's September. That's what it is. Build it up, play it. That's September. In a rain.
Well, folks, how did you like my picture? That's all, folks.